You're watching the One-Eyed Monkey channel, where tech, gadgets, and Bitcoin collide. All right, today we're diving into something that sounds, well, a little nuts. We're going to connect two worlds that seem like they're planets apart. The fiery industrial landscape of an oil field and the invisible digital world of Bitcoin. It sounds strange, I know, but stick with me, because this might just be a game changer for both. So, what on earth does this, a gas flare, that giant torch you see burning at oil wells, have to do with this, Bitcoin? It honestly sounds like the setup to a really weird riddle. But the answer, you'll see, reveals a pretty fascinating way to tackle a huge environmental problem while literally creating value out of thin air. Or, well, more accurately, out of wasted gas.
Okay, first things first, we've got to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this problem. See, every single day, oil wells all over the globe produce this byproduct they can't easily use or move, natural gas. And for decades, their go-to solution has been to just set it on fire, creating those iconic flares that light up the night sky.
Get this number in your head, 151 billion cubic meters. That is a staggering amount of natural gas that's flared or, let's be honest, just wasted every single year. To try and put that into perspective for you, that's more than $30 billion in potential energy value, just going up in smoke. It seems completely insane, right? I mean, why would anyone just burn off something so valuable? Well, the reality on the ground, out in those remote oil fields, is actually pretty complicated. For a lot of them, the logistics and the economics of capturing and selling that gas, they just don't add up. A lot of the time, there's just no pipeline to get the gas from the well to a market. It's what they call stranded gas. In other cases, you've got regulatory hurdles, or flaring is just a critical safety measure they have to use to relieve pressure. The bottom line is this. For these companies, the main prize is the oil. This extra gas is just seen as a costly, inconvenient problem. But what if you flipped the whole problem on its head? Instead of trying to get that stranded gas to a market far away, what if you could bring the market directly to the gas? This, my friends, is where our story takes a wild turn and Bitcoin enters the picture. Not as the energy villain it's so often made out to be, but maybe, just maybe, as a surprising part of the solution. This quote really just captures the magic of it all. Turn wasted flare gas into digital gold. Think about that. You're taking something that is not only being wasted, but is actively harmful to the environment, and you're using it to power a process that creates a valuable digital asset. It's like a kind of modern industrial alchemy. It's brilliant. So how does this actually work? Boots on the ground. It's not magic. It's just an incredibly clever use of mobile technology. So let's break down exactly how it's done.
It's really just a surprisingly simple four-step dance. Okay, step one, the waste gas is captured before it gets sent to the flare stack to be burned off. Step two, that gas is then used to fuel a big generator right there on site, creating electricity. Step three, that electricity then powers up a mobile data center. Seriously, think of a shipping container just packed with powerful, specialized computers. And then step four, those computers mine Bitcoin. And just like that, energy that was literally seconds away from being wasted is now creating value.
And listen, this isn't just some cool theory on a whiteboard. This is happening right now, for real, in oil fields all across the globe. There are a handful of pioneering companies out there proving that this model doesn't just work, it can work at a massive scale. Now, here's where the environmental argument gets really, really interesting. One of the leaders in this space, a company called Crusoe Energy, says their system gets a methane destruction efficiency of almost 100%. A typical flare, it's only about 91% efficient. Now, that gap might not sound like a lot, but it means a ton of unburned methane, a seriously potent greenhouse gas, is just escaping into the atmosphere. This system ensures a much cleaner, more complete burn. And this isn't just some niche startup idea when the big guys get involved. I'm talking about oil giants like ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips. They're already running pilot programs. When they start paying attention, this has serious credibility. They see a real chance here to hit their emissions targets while turning a costly problem into a new revenue stream. Okay, let's talk about the money, because that's what makes the world go round. A project down in Argentina by a company called Tecpetrol really shows how profitable this can be. After a $17 million initial investment, they're looking at about $8 million a year in revenue. And that's assuming a Bitcoin price of around 100K. The bottom line, the entire operation pays for itself in just 4 to 5 years. This isn't just a green initiative, it's a good business. But of course, it's not that simple. Nothing ever is. This whole idea is surrounded by a pretty heated debate. On one side, people are calling it a brilliant climate hack. But on the other, they're asking, is this just a clever subsidy that makes fossil fuel extraction more profitable and helps it stick around longer? The debate really boils down to this. The promise is clear, right? It reduces harmful methane emissions and turns pure waste into money. But the problems, well, critics raise some really valid points. Does it basically just prop up the oil and gas industry? Is the whole business model way too dependent on the crazy volatile price of Bitcoin? And this is a big one, does it distract us from the much larger goal of just switching to renewables altogether? To really get the emissions argument, you have to understand methane. This stuff is over 80 times, 80, more potent as a greenhouse gas than CO2. So when a flare burns inefficiently, it lets that unburned methane escape. By capturing that gas and burning it properly inside a generator, you're still producing CO2, yes, but you're converting the much, much worse methane. It's a clear case of choosing the lesser of two evils. So the tech is proven, the economics are looking pretty solid, which leads to the big question. Can this model go global? I mean, what would a blueprint for scaling this up actually look like? Well, this proposed plan for a country like Indonesia shows one possible path. It's a smart, phased approach. You don't go all in at once. You start small with some studies and a pilot project to prove it works in that specific region. Then, once you know it's viable, you methodically scale up until you have a full nationwide deployment. It's a really practical roadmap to turn a national problem into a national asset. And here's a key piece of the puzzle for making this work globally, making sure everyone gets a piece of the pie. A smart revenue sharing model isn't just about the Bitcoin miner and the oil company. By setting aside a real chunk, here it's 10%, for a local community fund, you create powerful buy-in from the people who actually live there and help drive local development. So in the end, we're left with that central thorny question. Is this a brilliant climate hack, a pragmatic, real-world solution that reduces harm right now? Or is it just a greener bandage, a clever trick that makes us all feel a little better about extending the life of fossil fuels? The answer, as usual, probably lies somewhere in the middle. But it forces us to ask a really tough question. In the race to save the planet, is a perfect solution tomorrow better than a good enough solution today?